So, this is going to be my review of Acts of Evil, the big Marvel... Well, I wouldn't call it an event. It was more like just a bunch of It was more like an anthology for several Marvel annuals. Basically, Acts of Evil is kind of like a homage to an event that happened in the late 80s, early 90s in Marvel Universe called the Acts of Vengeance, where essentially all the Marvel villains got together and decided, hey, Juggernaut, you go fight Thor. Magneto, you go fight Spider-Man. Ultron, you go fight Daredevil. True story, Daredevil does fight Ultron in there. So yeah, this is basically where heroes who don't normally encounter their rogues encounter different villains. And it's basically like, Acts of Vengeance, I think, was kind of an impetus for Old Man Logan, now that I think about it. Because I feel like Old Man Logan was like, the whole story of all the villains getting together and fighting all the heroes was kind of like, imagine if Acts of Vengeance worked. That's where I feel, that's my headcanon, is that the Old Man Logan universe is a Marvel universe where the Acts of Vengeance event worked. Anyway, so in here we have 8 stories involving Deadpool, Ghost Spider, aka Gwen Stacy, Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, Punisher, She-Hulk, Venom, and Wolverine. And yeah, they're all just kind of one-and-done stories where they encounter characters you wouldn't normally see them encounter. So let's dive right into this. And yeah, we're going to go into this real quick. Also, before I go any further, before I go further into the review, once again, I'd like to say that I do have a Patreon. The link is in the description below. Hit a link there, because not only am I going to be doing my thoughts on there, and become, you guys can become a Patreon there, but not only am I doing those videos on, like I said in the previous video, of doing my talk on Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the new movie coming to Netflix, but also I'm going to be doing videos regarding the new Rocketeer being announced at Disney+, and I'm also going to be talking about all the new Marvel events that Marvel has announced for late 2021 to 2022, like Devil's Reign, and Timeless, and Avengers Forever. So, I am going to be doing all of that there, so if you want to see those videos and see my thoughts there, get on there, be a part of the new multiverse, and join there, become a patron. You'll see those videos exclusively there. So there you go. Anyway, so let's dive right into this review. And Acts of Evil, let's start off with the first story. Acts of Evil, first story is between Miss Marvel, and she takes on the Super Skrull. The Super Skrull is a lot of fun, and basically the story is that at the time, this is before Empire, Kalert had been named the Skrull Emperor, and he encounters this guy called this Kree salesman by the name of... It's actually really funny when you think of it, because it took me a moment to be like, oh, I get it. A Kree by the name of Markole, who goes by the name Captain Miracle. But they have called, he also goes by the pseudonym Scott Free. Get it? He's a Mr. Miracle knockoff. It took me a moment. I was like, oh, that's clever, I guess. But basically, this salesman gives Super Skrull a device that will convert Earth into a new Skrull Empire, and the only way to access it, though, is through Miss Marvel's DNA. It's a pretty good story, and it actually leaves on a very good message that Kamala Khan uses more of her brains than her fists to take on her opponents, which I really enjoy. I really love that message at the end. So the second story is the weirdest. It's the Punisher versus the Brood. But yeah, the weird thing is that it's not just Punisher taking on the Brood. J. Jonah Jameson is there. Basically, Punisher and Jameson and Jonah get shot into space and encounter the Brood, and it's this very wacky story. And then at the end, it does a 180 because they do an epilogue, and it's this really dark. It takes a 180 because it goes this really dark route of Punisher murdering all of the people behind working with the Brood while Jonah's doing a podcast. It's really fucked up. So the next one is Venom. So the next story is Venom, and essentially in this story, Venom takes on Lady Hellbender, who I was not very familiar with. Apparently, Lady Hellbender is a character that was created in Bendis's Guardians of the Galaxy era. So Lady Hellbender, her whole story is that she collects rare monsters and makes like a private zoo for them to be like free and whatnot. And she's interested in, acquiring Eddie Brock and his symbiote. The artwork is really angular. I really don't like it. I especially don't like how they draw Venom in here. Like, his lips are like really like curled and whatnot. I don't get it. I'll try to find like a better picture for it. Yeah, like, this mouth design for Venom literally makes no sense. Like, it's so strange. I don't know if they're trying to do something oddball with it, but, yeah. The backup is basically giving a backup for Hellbender's origin, which was fun. So, all in all, not a bad story. So next up we have Deadpool. So Deadpool's story is where he takes on Nightmare. And Nightmare, the story is that Deadpool is hired by an 11-year-old to fight and kill his nightmares. And Deadpool is like, alright, I'll do it. So Deadpool goes, and the story isn't really so much Deadpool versus Nightmare. He does go into the dream realm to take on Nightmare, but this story goes a lot darker. And I'm not talking like nightmare-wise, I'm talking like real life. Something happens in here, and it's really like, oh, that's gross, and that's disturbing. But yeah, it takes a total turn that I don't want to go into. I don't want to spoil it, but like, I will say, some monsters are in the real world, and this boy encounters one. Yeah. So, but like I said, it's not so much Deadpool versus Nightmare. It's more like Deadpool on an adventure and Nightmare's there. Then we come to She-Hulk, where she takes on Bullseye, which you would think She-Hulk versus Bullseye would not be much of a fight. And you'd be right. The problem is that She-Hulk has had her body stolen from her by Bullseye, and she's left in a robot body, while Bullseye is in her body. That's literally the whole story. It's a body switch episode, and it's a lot of fun. It's just this fun little romp involving Jen Walters, which I gotta say, after everything with She-Hulk, it's kind of fun to see She-Hulk come back to basics, really. It really does feel nice to have her come back to basics. So if you're looking for a fun back-to-basics She-Hulk story, this is it. Then we get to Ghost Spider, where she takes on Arcade, and it's a fun little romp. Arcade, it's not really even Arcade, it's more like a program, because Gwen gets trapped in like a old recording for Arcade set for Spider-Man, and it thinks Gwen is Spider-Man, so now the recording's playing that out, and yeah, it's alright, it's pretty decent. I do like the artwork. I love how the artwork just kind of feels very like pop and like very pop culture, very like, it's a very bright and vibrant artwork. I love it. All in all, decent story. All around pretty fun. So then we come to Moon Knight versus Kang the Conqueror, which is my personal favorite story. This one was written by Cullen Bunn, too. Everyone else here who wrote these comics were kind of like no-name, and I think this was like their no-name comic, but Cullen Bunn, who had been writing Moon Knight at the time, got to do this one, and he takes on Kang the Conqueror. It's a fun story where Moon Knight is taking on Kang after Kang steals artifacts from Khonshu, and Mark Spector, along with the previous bearers of the Moon Knight title, all team up to take him on. It's a really fun story. This is probably my favorite. And finally, we have Wolverine versus Morgan Le Fay, where Logan encounters Logan basically finds a lost love that he had, and how it ties into Morgan Le Fay was kind of cool, of having that Morgan Le Fay from the future came back, possessed her body, and knew who Wolverine was, and tried to take him out. So, that one's a lot of fun. It ends on a really somber ending. But, yeah. All in all, this is a fun comic. It's a fun collection of stories, although I wouldn't say get this at full price. This is about $35 in price. I got this for $10 at a convention, so if you can find it, like, discounted, I recommend it, because if you love, like, fun little one-and-done stories of just heroes and villains going on adventures, this is it. This is perfect. So, yeah. So if you've read Acts of Evil, comment below, let me know what you thought of it. And once again, check out my Patreon in the link below. That is where you'll see videos for, you know, my thoughts on the new Marvel events, as well as Rocketeer and the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie coming to Netflix. So, yeah, just comment below, let me know, and subscribe to my Patreon. Go check that out. And once again, I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.